$30 silver. We're going to talk about that right off the bat. But is the dollar going to zero? We're going to hear what a billionaire is telling us. And he's warning, I think it's sometime in the next 10 years, that the dollar could go to zero again. This is a billionaire. We're also going to talk with our good friend Orin, the silver hermit, who's going to tell us all about the new silver squeeze and what it could mean for the world. There's some big news embedded in what he's going to share with us today. But first, let's jump over. Let's just start talking right off the bat about who is telling us that we could be in for $30 silver. This comes from our friend Niels Christensen over at Kitco. The silver market is undersupplied, which will drive prices above $30. Yada, yada, yada. We've heard that all the time. But who's saying this now? ANZ, which stands for, I believe, Australia New Zealand Bank. I know it's an Australian New Zealand bank. Let's just go through a couple of the key points, okay? Volatility is picked up in the precious metals market. Yes, we know that. But one new trend is emerging as the silver market wakes up and starts to outperform gold. In a report published Monday, commodity analyst at ANZ said that silver has significant potential even after hitting solid resistance at $29.90 on Friday. Do you remember Friday? I remember Friday. Wow, it seemed like we were heading off into the stratosphere with the silver price, only to be beat down by those nasty manipulators at the COMEX and the LBMA. Hey, if nothing else, when they beat it down, we can always blame it on manipulation. But let's talk about why they're so interested about silver. Because it says let's highlight this for you so you can follow along. Along with its role as a monetary metal, Hines said that he expects silver to outperform gold. As industrial demand picks up and supply remains constrained. Quote, slower mine production growth. And we know that's the case. Guys, there is very little silver coming online in the next 10 years and very little in the pipeline in regards to exploration and development. And strong industrial demand suggests supply is lagging demand. What does that mean? This will keep the market in a structural deficit, an upturn in the electronic cycle, and potential demand growth from the solar sector. Potential? Have you seen all this big news out the last few days? People tearing apart the latest data from the Silver Institute? Guys, there is massive demand coming through right now for silver from the solar sector. Why do you think India imported 70 million ounces back in February? Okay. Anyway, demand growth from the solar sector bodes well for silver's industrial consumption, the ANZ analyst wrote. An undersupplied market leaves room for further withdrawal of above ground inventories with the London Bullion Market Association. Yeah, guys, that's what's been going on for the last, 4 years? Like 500 million ounces of silver have been withdrawn. The demand for silver has way outstripped supply. This has been going on for several years now, and I'm hearing numbers as high as 400 million to 500 million ounces have been sucked out of the above ground inventories, and that can't last forever. Nobody knows for sure. Anyone who tells you exactly how much above ground supply there is lying to you. But we do know one thing for sure. It's not limitless, right? It's finite. Think about that. There is an above ground stockpile of silver. It has been being drawn upon for the last 2 or 3 years. That we know is a fact. We don't know exactly how much there is, but we know that it's shrinking, and we know that the rate of shrinkage is only anticipated to increase. Multi-year low stocks, along with negative market balance, warrant higher silver prices. Okay, so thank you to our good friend Niels over at Kitco for that enlightening article about silver. Once again, more and more evidence that the amount of silver, right, the demand for silver is going to far outweigh supply, and we're in for some good times. I see our friend Orin is now in the studio, so we're going to get to him in just 1 minute. Remember, guys, we're going to talk about the silver squeeze. And Orin has some really cool insights he wants to share with us. This guy, in my opinion, is one of the top-notch emerging silver analysts out there. But first, let's have some fun. You know, something's wrong with the education system. They aren't teaching these kids about real money, right? They teach them about dollars, paper money, unicorn, you know what, dust and whatever. So look, I have a new computer I'm using today. I'm trying to use some new technology. I'm going to do my best here to play. This is hilarious, but embedded within this, and Susie's going to let me know if you can hear it. Embedded within this is a very, very powerful story that has everything to do with silver. So I'm going to hit play, and hopefully we're going to watch this twice because I'm not going to be able to talk. I'll be laughing so hard. Watch it one more time. Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay, guys. Sorry about that. What the little kid said is Jaden has $1 bill, 1 quarter, and 2 pennies. How much money does Jaden have? And the kid says, Jaden doesn't have any money. He's broke. Ha 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 ha. So here's a $1 bill. Here's a 1/4. Okay. And here's 2 pennies right here. Paper money, right? And some change. What we need to teach that little guy is this: if your quarter that Jaden has is a 1958 quarter like this one, which was given to me by my good friend the Silvershire, right? At the current rate, there's 0.715 ounces of silver in each $1 of change, 1964 and earlier. All right, that's about $20 worth of silver. That means we got to tell that little guy this quarter, if my math is correct, is worth about $5. So I'm sorry you couldn't hear the audio. I'm still trying to figure all this out, but really a funny. I'll try to put a link to that in the notes to the show. Hey, we've got Orin joining us right now. We're going to bring him on. Hopefully, I'll be able to hear him. Hold on, his mic is unmuted, and I'm going to add him to the stage.
Hello,
Orin,
hello.
hello.
How do you do?
Good. How do you do?
I'm fine, thank you.
What do you think of that little? I don't know if you saw that little story, that little guy. We
Y-
were trying to teach him if he had
That
a.
video, yeah, he's right. He understands money.
We're trying to teach him. So Orin is from the YouTube channel The Silver Hermit, and he's got a great story he wants to share with us today about the silver squeeze and what it could mean for the world. Right? There's a lot going on in the world right now, and Orin, welcome to the basement. Thanks for being here. What do you
It's good
got
to
for
be
us
here,
today?
as always. So I made a video, a new video, which talks about the idea of a silver squeeze. But usually when we talk about the silver squeeze and people participating in the silver squeeze, and they're thinking about their own financial situation and how they can benefit from the price of silver rising. And what I wanted to do is to show people that by squeezing the price of silver and turning it into money again, remonetizing it, they can actually save the world. They can actually fix a lot of the problems that we're suffering from today. And today with you, I want to focus specifically on the possibility that silver can prevent war and actually lead to world peace. Now,
All right.
I
Wow.
know it sounds far-fetched. I know it sounds, very optimistic,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, it can be done, and there's logic behind it. It's not completely crazy.
No, and Oren, I want to throw in, it's not completely crazy, and you aren't the only person who in the last month or so has mentioned to me, and I've read it also, that if you back money with gold and silver, there's history has shown us that the amount of war that goes on goes down dramatically. So I'll give you the stage is yours, Oren.
Okay, so let's think a bit about the current monetary system that we have today. The fiat monetary system deals with elastic money. What does it mean that it's elastic? It means that the money supply can expand to whatever size the government wants, or whatever. Like if there's a customer, if there's a bank that wants to give loans, they can give loans to any extent. There's no limit on the amount of credit that can be created and the amount of money that can be generated in the system. And that's as opposed to a sound money system, which is based on gold or silver or both, which puts a limit on the amount of credit that can be generated. That's called an inelastic monetary system. And of course, in a fiat monetary system, the government can pretty much spend as much as it wants. All it needs to do is just borrow money, and if the public doesn't want to buy its bonds, then the central bank can do that. Yeah. And by buying government bonds and monetizing them, it's monetizing the debt, and it's creating, of course, inflation. So the public needs to pay for those deficits. But theoretically, the government can spend all that it wants. And I argue that, among other things, it also promotes war, because...
So let me. I want to interject and ask you a question, so this is clear for our viewer as well. So if the system is backed by silver and gold, if the government wants more money to, let's say, go to war, they need to get more silver and gold to pay for it. Correct?
Whereas under a sound monetary system, the government needs money in order to pay for the war, and money is silver. And if there isn't enough silver or gold, depends on your system, then it can't go to war. There's a limit on the amount that it can spend. Now, of course, the government has a budget, right? So it can decide, okay, so for instance, I want to go to war, so I'm going to cut entitlements in order to fund a bigger army or fancy weapons. But then you get an outcry from the people because their entitlements are cut. Right now, we have what we call guns and butter, the ability of the government to go to war and still go on paying people their entitlements.
Yeah, so I want to interject here, because that's a great, I never thought about that. That's a great point. If we were on a sound money system right now in the United States, wanted to go off on a war, let's say in Afghanistan or the Middle East or Europe or wherever, they would have to go to the American public and say, sorry, we're cutting your Social Security. And think about what the reaction to that would be. People would go crazy. They'd say, we don't want to go to war. Suddenly, Americans would become anti-war.
Yes. Suddenly, it's going to become a very hot topic, political topic, and suddenly politicians are constantly will be asked, what are you doing in order to prevent war so that we have more resources to invest here at home?
Yeah.
And the point is that under a sound monetary system, the government has to balance its budget. Otherwise, all its gold or silver reserves simply flow out of the country, and eventually it ends up without any gold or silver, and it can't operate at all. So there's like this limit on the amount that it can spend, and specifically also on war. So I'm saying that if we can squeeze silver, and I'm arguing that by squeezing silver, we can actually remonetize it. We can bring it to the point that it becomes money again. Yeah. We can actually take away from our governments the ability to conduct endless war. I also want to say that it's not a coincidence that the century of total war, the 20th century, coincided with, the era of fiat currency.
Yeah, it sure feels like since 1971 in particular, and I know a big part of the reason why Nixon temporarily took the United States off the gold standard, a big part of the reason for that was to subsidize then the Vietnam War. But it seems that subsequent to that, all we have seen is war after war after war after war. And, I want to throw something in there because I know you're joining us from Israel.
Yes.
War, we're talking about human beings and human lives, right? I mean, so I think the big picture, this idea that sound money, some people may call it God's money, nature's money, whatever, can help prevent, and it's been proven over time to prevent war, is a big, big deal because, gosh darn it, at the end of the day, we're talking about human lives. And if anything can be done to foster in an environment that's more peaceful, hey, I'm in favor of it.
Yeah, so of course, I'm here in Israel, and we are in the middle of a brutal conflict. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's, of course, people understand we've been attacked by Hamas in Gaza, and there are still people, they were taken hostage. There are still over 130 hostages being kept there, and we're trying to get them. And of course, tremendous amount of people were killed in that attack, and I think no self-respecting government could tolerate such a thing. So this conflict was, I hope people understand, it was imposed on us. We did not choose it. Israel has always wanted peace, was always willing to make concessions for the sake of peace. And there are many people who accuse my country of being, the culprit, the bad guy in this situation in the Middle East. I'm not going to get into that discussion, but I do believe that if, for instance, we had just a few days ago a massive attack from Iran that luckily did not manage to hurt many people. There was only one casualty, thankfully, and not a lot of damage. But countries such as Iran, it's not just that if we manage to remonetize gold and silver, I don't think it's just going to be the U.S. that won't be able to go to war. It will affect every government in the world. It will also affect Russia. It will also affect China. It will also affect Iran. So I think all governments in the world will have to restrict their expenses on their military expenses, and eventually I think it's going to result in a more peaceful world. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, and who doesn't want a more peaceful world? Because right now, look at what's going on in the world. Obviously, we have the situation that you're living through in the Middle East. We have war in Europe, right, with Russia in Europe right now. We have a powder keg type situation, or at least that's what the American media is leading the American public to believe, a powder keg situation with China and Taiwan. And there's rumblings of North Korea, South Korea erupting as well. It's hard to point at a place on the globe where there's not some type of major war or geopolitical conflict. And who needs all this, right? And I think what's cool, Orin, what's cool is you talked about it on a worldwide basis. There's definitely a trend right now. And I think the basement dwellers would agree with this. And I've talked to many guests who confirm that this is happening, that on a worldwide basis, there's a big trend toward the re-recognition of silver and gold as like the base of money. And as that continues to grow, and I think you alluded to this when you were talking, is this base of countries that are recognizing the value of re-recognizing the value of silver and gold that never really went away. But as that number grows, it will force by default the other countries, if they want to play ball, right, in the world economy, to either directly or indirectly recognize the value of silver and gold as well.
That's an interesting point, because I've been following this space for years, and there was always this question: if China doesn't want to live under the dollar as the world reserve currency, why doesn't it just back its currency with gold, and then the Chinese yuan would instantly become more powerful and would become eventually the replace the dollar?
Yeah.
And why didn't China do that? Or why doesn't Russia do that? Because there were rumblings about Russia backing the ruble with gold, and eventually that didn't happen. It was only for a very short while. And my answer is that those governments don't want to do that because that would tie their hands as well. Yeah, they don't want only to replace the dollar. They want to become the ones who issue the fiat currency, which is the global reserve currency. They want to take the place of the United States, that privilege which the United States currently has. Now, so they always had that choice, but by taking away the power from the US government, they would also be tying their own hands. So this is why I think they never did that. But if there's pressure from the market, if there's pressure from the people, now that's a whole different thing. Like, we as the people, we can force them to do that. We can leave them no choice. Now, in my video, I try to describe how I imagine the process of a short squeeze. And, it's unimaginable how much power average people such as us have when the market is tight, because we can tip the scales. Yes, when there's very little gold and silver out there to buy. So our increased demand can tip the scales from a simple deficit into a complete shortage of silver across the world. And then, it will trigger a chain of events. The COMEX will default. Not really default, because it can't really default. All it can do is force people to settle their trades in cash. But that is enough, because that is going to be an admission that there is a global shortage of silver. And next, I imagine large consumers of silver will panic, and they'll start buying, all emptying every inventory, every warehouse across the world, because they're suddenly going to understand that they can't get any silver from the COMEX, and that there is shortage, and there is danger that they won't be able to get it anymore. And this is what I really think will trigger the short squeeze, force the banks to close their short positions, and then you're going to see this huge spike in the price, and the manipulation of the price of gold and silver will end effectively. Because
let me ask you a question, Orin. So the silver price has been pretty good lately, right? We're you know what? Let me run out. I'm gonna talk here and pull some things up. I'm gonna run out to my channel sponsor, Pimbex, and let's get an update here on the silver price and gold price as live as we're recording. Okay, so silver's at $28.41 right now as we're recording. Gold up almost $20, $23.82. But the silver price has been very strong lately. Obviously, a few people are telling me the gold price has been really strong as well. But silver was what, $22. It feels like, I don't know, what, 7-8 weeks ago, from $22 to $28.
Yeah.
And what excites me, what I see as a potential for a silver squeeze or a rapid increase in the silver price as measured in paper US fiat dollars, could be a return of the Western investors. That, as Rick Rule says many times, Rick Rule will say, silver doesn't have to be loved to skyrocket. It just needs to be a little less hated. And I want to pull up a chart for us to look at here. Can you see that on your screen right now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So that's a chart of the iShares Silver Trust, the SLV. We don't like the SLV ETF, but it's the good proxy for kind of Western silver investment. And the red line is the silver price. The blue line, or the blue shaded area, is the holdings of the SLV ETF. And, if you look back to around the time where the silver squeeze happened, it had, what was that, about 18,000 metric tons, maybe 20,000 metric tons. And it's darn near down to, let's see here, I can get the number for us. I thought it would give me that number, about 13,000 right now. What if What if Western investors stop hating silver so much, just hate it a little bit less, and we start to see inflows into these ETFs? I know Andrew McGuire talks about he's said that it may not be years away, but it could potentially be months away.
Yes, I agree with you. And this is exactly what I meant when I said that you and I and the people who are listening to us, we can tip the scales because the market is tight. There already is a deficit. There's been a deficit for a few years, and above ground inventories are being drained. And all it needs is just a little push for it to tumble down, and for us to be able to squeeze silver, because price, they say, is set at the margin, so we can be the margin, right?
we are. Hey, basement dwellers, hold on. I'm going to ask everybody to do something. If you want to be part of the margin, oops, I can't type margin in the comments. Sorry, Orin.
So I wanted to tell everybody, look, I was one of the first few guys who in Wall Street Silver community in Reddit, and I'm also part of the Silver Degen Club, again, a forum on Reddit. And we are, the community who is hell-bent on squeezing silver. And we feel that the situation, the conditions are right in order to try it again. Because, in 2022, it failed. It was, 2021, early 2021, where there was an attempt, and there was, everybody just bought silver, but it wasn't enough. The conditions weren't right. Apparently, it was premature. But now I feel that some time has gone by. The deficit is getting worse. More and more people are noticing it. The price has broken out. As far as I'm concerned, according to my analysis, the trigger was 24.5, and I was following that level, because according to my technical analysis, that was the level in which it can really take off, and it did. This is exactly what happened. So look, we have the momentum right now. I feel, it's my opinion, that we can do it. So of course it's not financial advice, but
sure.
I think that your listeners can help. They can join, and if we all do it together, then we can not only take care of ourselves financially, but perhaps make the world a better place. And on my video, which I call the Silent Revolution, really like that name, because it happens. This revolution can happen without any demonstrations or protests on the street, and you don't have to run for office. You can do it from the privacy of your own home and participate in this revolution.
And I want to mention this because you prompted a thought in my mind. The way that people can be part of this is obviously, number one, to buy silver. Number two, and nobody ever talks about this, but unless you absolutely have to, don't sell silver.
Yeah.
I can look you all in the eye, including you, Orin, and all the 600 people that are joining us right now, and say, I have never sold an ounce of silver in my
Me
life.
neither. I never
Right.
sold an ounce.
Yeah. But I also want to bring up a point. You talked about the previous silver squeeze in 2021. If and when another squeeze type situation occurs, I do feel that the silver investing community now, 3 years later, is much more robust than they were great people, but it was kind of like a flash where a bunch of people said, oh yeah, I want to get involved in this. And, now it feels like there's a more solid, robust group of people behind the silver movement. And I know the guys at Wall Street Silver and the Silver Degen Club and all the members there. I mean, these are some really good, high quality people. And I also want to throw in, because you talked about, we are the margin. I had a discussion with an executive from one of the big online bullion companies, and he basically said the same thing. He said, you have to realize that the online retail bullion, that is just like a pretty slim little layer of the total silver demand. We've got great demand from industry. We have great demand from China. We have great demand for silver everywhere, except with the,
Yes.
it's been muted within the Western, the United States. I'll just call myself out because I'm sitting right here in the middle of the country in St. Louis. Like my comrades here in the United States, not the basement dwellers, right? We're awesome. We love our silver. We love our gold, but our neighbors, have yet to catch on. They're starting to.
Yes.
No doubt about it. No, I mean, they are starting to catch on, and we're seeing that, obviously with the Costco thing that everybody's tired of hearing about, selling out of Silver Eagle, selling out of Canadian Maple. So, I think it's really possible. And I appreciate your work and your thoughts on the subject, Orin.
Yes, well, I can understand people who were demoralized by what happened last time.
Yeah.
That, they were hoping and praying for this to happen, and they bought a bunch of silver, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
The price went back down. The banks were able to tamp it down. The CFTC looked the other way. You know the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
And if not now, then when? If not now, when we're on the brink of, God forbid, World War III, then when? We have to
Right.
give it another chance. We have to give it another chance. I
Yeah.
feel in my bones that now is the time. I hope that I'm right and I'm not just misleading people. I'm just
No.
telling you what I truly believe.
Yeah, yeah. Let's run out. I'm going to put you on the spot about something too, Orin, but I want to show everybody your channel. Here it is, guys, on YouTube, The Silver Hermit. And here is an interview he did with, I always called him the king, from the Silver Dijon Club and Wall Street Silver. But I want to ask you a question about a video you just put out. It says both exciting, both exciting and frightening. Can you give us an elevator pitch on what this video is
Yeah,
about,
well,
Orin?
that's just a discussion that I had with another guest of yours, Mountain Bullion Entertainment.
Yeah.
We had an interview when the price just broke out, and I took a few bits of that interview and I compiled it into a video which speaks about what the meaning, the significance of this breakout in the price of gold and silver, and also there's a few tips there about how you should treat the whole thing, and if you should sell, when you should sell, and how you should view the whole thing. Also, a bit of our prospects for the future, how high the price can go, the gold to silver ratio. We talk about its history. So there's a lot of interesting things there in this video.
Well, then I
And
have a question for you, Orin. I'm going to put
yeah,
you on the spot again. When should I sell my silver, or how should I
well,
sell my silver? I'm not
the
I'm
answer,
not asking you for financial advice, but I'd like
sure.
to hear your input.
The answer is that there is no specific price in which you need to sell. Why? Because as I explained in that video, there is no boundary on the price of gold and silver, because of course, the more inflation you have, the higher the price can go.
Yeah.
So, and if, God forbid, we reach the situation called a hyperinflation, then the price can really, it can really jump in leaps and bounds. And what people should do, there is a set of indicators that they should follow. Perhaps I'm going to do a video about that. They need to compare the price of gold and silver to other commodities.
Yeah.
For instance, compare it to the average price of a home, or to the price of oil. And of course, have a look at the gold to silver ratio. There is a set of indicators that would tell us if silver is becoming overpriced.
Yeah.
And then perhaps you need to think about converting your silver, preferably not to fiat money, right? Preferably to some tangible, some real asset, such as real estate, or perhaps convert some of your silver to gold. We can discuss this at length. But the point is that you need to be aware of what is going in the entire economy, in the commodity complex in order to tell. It's not a straightforward answer. And just because, for instance, if you see the price of silver going to $100, doesn't necessarily mean that you need to sell it, because
Right.
perhaps it's on its way to 1,000.
Yeah.
And
Right.
of
Right.
course,
Right.
it depends on the situation. It depends on the conditions in the market. So I'm hoping, among other things, to teach people how to do that, how to gauge what is going on around them. But I can tell you that we're very, very far from that point, and it could take years before we get to that point. Right now, still the price of silver, in my view, is very cheap. Still very, very cheap. Still, we haven't even crossed the 2020 high, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention the 2011 high and the 1980 high. Come on, we haven't even set a new all-time high for the price of silver. So we have a long way to go. We could be sitting here in 2 or 3 years, or maybe perhaps even 5 years, and still be talking about when the price of silver becomes too expensive. And
So you mean,
I'm hoping
wait a minute, Orin,
by
you
then
mean
it will be into a full-fledged bull market, of course.
5 years from now, right? We'll be 5 years older and 5 years more handsome. But I can just imagine you and I sitting here. I can imagine you 5 years from now, Orin.
I'll tell you one thing: we're going to have a lot more viewers. That's for sure.
Yeah,
We're going to
you
have a
too.
lot more viewers because the public is going to, the moment the price moves.
Yeah, I got something interesting I'm going to show everybody in 1 second in regards to what you just said. But I can just envision 5 years from now. Of course, right? We'll be 5 years wiser, a lot more viewers, all that good stuff. But I can just hear you saying, guys, silver at $300 an ounce is still cheap.
It could be. It could
It
very
could.
well be.
A lot
Now,
of people can't grasp that concept, and they're like,
I
oh,
know.
that's
Look,
crazy,
I
clickbait.
want to tell you something. Now I remember when I first heard about silver, and the year was something like 2010, perhaps, or 2009. And I saw this video on YouTube of a guy saying that he thinks that one day the price of silver is going to go to $1,000. And I was laughing. What is this guy's crazy?
Yeah.
And it amazes me that nowadays I'm the one who's saying that silver could go to quadruple digits.
Yeah.
Of course, with enough inflation, it can go to $1,000 or over $1,000.
I got a guy right here, a billionaire. Now, he made his billions on Bitcoin, but his name is where's his name here? Tim Draper. He says, sometime in the next 7 years, this is a billionaire, I think that we will have a cataclysmic event. He said, quote, I hope everybody who's watching this is trying to at least have some, and then he says the B word, because I'll substitute silver or gold in there so that they can feed their family during the time when the dollar goes to zero. Okay. Now I'm not trying to scare everybody. The sky's falling. I'm not one of these, the dollar's going to go to zero in the next year or 7 years, but this is a billionaire kind of saying that so if the dollar
all I'm saying, look, I can't guarantee anything to anyone, but I can tell people, I'm only asking people to keep an open mind about this possibility, and to have that somewhere in the back of their mind that we could see there is it's the probability is bigger than zero. The dollar will collapse.
Talk to the people in Venezuela. Talk to the people that live in Argentina. Ask them how high the
look. There's a huge difference between a local currency collapsing and the global reserve currency collapsing. It's not the same thing. There are mechanisms which are enforcing, which are giving strength to the dollar due to a foreign demand. Okay, the question is, when do these mechanisms stop or start working in reverse, and when do all these dollars come back home? As you say, all the chickens come home to roost. Right now, we only have regular inflation.
Right.
We don't have a hyperinflation. But I'm trying to get people ready and to educate people how to tell if they suddenly transition, if we suddenly transition into hyperinflation, and what should they do in such a situation? Because it's very dangerous. Because if you do the wrong thing in such a situation, you can lose everything.
Well, and it can happen quickly, right? Like the table's set. The general, fiscal, monetary, political, geopolitical situation that the US dollar's in right now, it could just take, and we already have an inflation problem. It could just take one thing, right? One financial crisis, one
Yes.
black swan could be the catalyst that could set off. I mean, we had 20% inflation back in 2022 in this country. Our 71st, I think it was Larry Summers, 71st Treasury Secretary of the United States, came out recently and said the real inflation rate during that period wasn't 9%. It was more like 18 or 20%. So it's just going to take, one little thing. The table's set, right? I mean, that could send things spiraling.
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way: that if our leaders, world leaders, wanted to get a hyperinflation, a global hyperinflation, I can't imagine what they would do differently than what they're doing right now.
All right, good point. I'm going to tell you what more this Draper guy, who's a billionaire, right? Well, whatever that. Anyway, he predicts that the U.S. dollar will go the way of the Confederate dollar after the U.S. Civil War. Excuse me, eventually becoming, quote unquote, completely worthless and triggering bank runs. I'm just telling you what this guy said. He says, quote, there will be a moment in time, and I don't know whether it's a day or a month or maybe over the course of 2 months or something, but I don't know when it will start, whether it'll be a year or 5 years or whatever, maybe even 10 years out, but it will happen very rapidly.
Yes. And I'll tell you why it's going to happen very rapidly, because as opposed, and by the way, that's something that my friend Rafi Farber also talks about, but I share his views on that. Other countries, when a local currency, for instance, in Venezuela or Zimbabwe, collapses, then the locals have the US dollar or the euro to fall back upon. There is a fiat currency which is relatively stable compared to their local currency. So they start transacting in dollars or start saving in dollars or in euros. And so the hyperinflation can persist for a long while. And the government can go on, expanding the money supply again, and it can go on for years. A very excruciating process. But if the dollar ever collapses, then there is no other currency to fall back on. There is no other fiat currency.
Yeah, there is. Hold on, Orin. I don't agree with you, Orin. Okay. There is another. Well, I do agree with you. I hope you know that.
Please don't say the SDR.
No. What the world can fall back on in that situation are silver and gold, right?
Yes.
Right.
It's not a fiat currency.
I know. So you're right. I'm wrong. You're right. But
so the hyperinflation is very quick and very painful and very sudden, and the dollar collapses, and then you go back to gold and silver. But the thing is that when that happens, it's going to be too late to get them.
Right. Because think about this. Going back to the silver squeeze, and I had a great conversation with Jordan Roy Burns, super smart guy, super smart analyst, and I've heard several other people. This is exciting about silver. Think about the situation that we're in now, Orin, right now, 2024, okay, and how different, because of technology, that a silver squeeze could occur, or silver shortage, whatever you want to call it, a massive price, because of two things. Communications happen so much more quickly, right? It's like when we had the banking crisis a year ago. People were able to, learn about it and drain money out of their bank accounts because of technology on their phone. I mean, you and I right now, during the course of this interview, could have, drained our bank accounts and bought monster boxes worth of silver, right? So now, compared to 1980, when silver hit $50 per ounce, and $1980, which is the equivalent of like $160 an ounce today, but nonetheless, in 1980, you talk to the people that were alive during that silver squeeze, I guess we could call it. There were lines out the door of the coin shops around the corner. Most people couldn't even get into the coin shops, right, to buy their silver. Today, it's weighed up, and news flowed much more slowly back then. Today, we've got this instant communication, right, with the internet and our phones. But even more important, all the silver out there at all these online bullion dealers, and we've seen this happen, can be drained in the matter of hours.
Yeah, right. I'm smiling because I was writing about this possibility as far back as 2013 on my
Wow.
articles in Hebrew. I was speculating whether, due to all the advanced communications that we have and the ability to trade on your cell phone, that we're going to see the bubbles emerging quicker and quicker, and that bubbles will be able to develop and collapse in the span of hours, perhaps even minutes.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just trying to extrapolate what I was seeing back then, and I think crypto is that. I think this is exactly what we've seen in crypto. We've seen prices rising and falling at such a crazy pace with such a huge volatility. And yes, I agree with everything you've said. We're living in a different era. People are able to buy gold, silver, everything, oil, iron ore from their phone. They can do it during a lunch break. They can do it even during a transatlantic flight, and everything is connected. Everything is happening real time. Also, you need to remember, during the 1980s, there was a huge chunk of the world which was behind the Iron Curtain. You had Russian citizens, Chinese citizens. They weren't able to participate in buying gold or silver. It was strictly the West, specifically here in the United States. And now it's the entire world participating. And back in the day, perhaps Western leaders could call upon their citizens to relax, sit at home, don't buy gold and silver. But now nobody's going to take that seriously, because we know that people all across the world are doing it. So if American citizens won't do it, then Chinese people will do it. So it's going to be just first come, first serve.
Yeah, it's crazy, and we're getting reports now. My friend John Little, that's over at the Silver Academy, the pickaxe.com, published this great article a few days ago that the Chinese are buying gold, both their government and the citizens, at like unbelievable rates right now. But now he had some reports that came directly from China that are saying that the Chinese media, which is controlled by the Chinese government, is starting to encourage the citizenry to buy silver as well. And we know over on the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange, the Oriental Ghost on X every day, it seems like, puts out this report that shows the price of silver in China is like $2 or $3 an ounce higher than what it is on the COMEX and the LBMA. These arbitrage guys are just sucking the silver out of the West and moving it to the East.
Yes. And we can, speculate about the meaning of this.
Yeah.
But, perhaps the Chinese government has decided to weaponize silver against the US government. Everything is possible. I don't know. I'm not a fly on the wall there in their meetings there in the Communist Party of China. But we don't even need to understand what exactly is going on. We just need to identify the trend and do our part. If we believe that squeezing silver will improve the world, then go ahead, do it. Not just for yourself, but
imagine a world where middle class people in any country worked and were paid money that didn't actually lose value. That's just such a strange concept, they were paid money and maybe it even went up in value if you didn't spend it. If you sacrificed and didn't go out and immediately spend your money, that it actually went up in value. I mean, wow, what an
Yes.
idea.
Yeah, that was the allure of Bitcoin. That's why people, started speculating on Bitcoin. But I think that Bitcoin is inherently flawed. I think that Bitcoin cannot replace gold and silver. This is why I never bought Bitcoin. I never went that route. I always stayed with gold and silver because that's what my logic and conviction told me to stick with precious metals. I want to tell you one more thing because look, on my video, which I mentioned earlier, I describe other social problems. I won't go into detail, but I'm just going to tell you, I think that there are many, many social problems which are plaguing our society nowadays, which are all tied to the fiat monetary system. And I know it sounds amazing. I know it sounds far-fetched, but as I explained there are many, many problems that we're suffering from today that are somehow linked to the ability of governments to create money out of nothing and use it for all sorts of programs which are distorting the economy and are, robbing us of the purchasing power of our money.
Yep. Yep. Oh yeah. No, I mean, when the government is faced with the choice, are we going to raise taxes or are we going to print money? It seems like, at least over the last several decades, the choice is simple. We'll just print some money, right? We won't raise taxes. We won't, and it creates a lot of issues. Orin, on behalf of all of our viewers, it's been so great having you here today. I want to
Thank
remind
you for
everyone.
having me, as usual.
Yeah, well,
As always.
you're my friend, and I know our friend Brian at Mountain Bullion Entertainment, another great guy. A lot of us out there, working to spread the word about silver and gold, for that matter. I do want to remind everyone, if you want more Orin, right? You've probably been sold on this guy. You've listened to these very smart things that he said. You can go to his YouTube channel, The Silver Hermit. Orin, take care of yourself. Did I
Thank
miss?
you. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. I'll see you soon, buddy. Thank you. All right, guys, there we have it. I love Orin, a very smart guy, with just, has a great ability to understand and communicate to us, right? Because we're all different. And I've talked about that many times with our basement community. Like, right, that's how we can help each other, by communicating. And somebody threw up a comment earlier that I wanted to comment on, and unfortunately I forgot to do it while Orin was still on, but it got me thinking of what Thomas Jefferson said in regards to this idea that silver and gold can actually usher in long periods of peace in the world. And Thomas Jefferson said that the biggest threat to the United States is not an invading army, but of central banks and large corporations. And I think, what we're seeing happen today is possibly a manifestation of that. And it's okay that we say that, because that was Thomas Jefferson. Okay. That's what they taught us in school, right? Hey, let's go look at $3,000. Let's go look at $3,000. You know what? First, let's say thank you to our channel sponsors. We already went out to Pimbeck's website to check the silver and gold price, but you can get a lot more on their website. You can get gold, silver, platinum, metals, the bars, coins, you name it, right? They have it all. And you can also get the best prices and the best service, all from a company that you can trust. But I want you to find that out for yourself. Do your own due diligence. I'll never tell you what to do or give you financial advice. However, hold on a minute. Please do the gong. Oh, I will do the gong. Yes, I will do the gong. So check out Pimbeck. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over the place. And I always appreciate you guys dealing with me here in the basement as we work our way through these financial or technical problems. Let's go, and I will do the gong, but I want to talk about quickly $3,000 gold. What does that mean for silver? What does it mean? City, right? Says gold is shining, quote unquote, bright like a diamond. This is on number one. This is City saying this. Number two, this is being covered on CNBC. Guys, we are in a new era. Can you Do you agree with me? I see that we are in a new era for the silver price and the gold price. Let's go down real quickly. They say gold price continues to rally. We've got these tensions in the Middle East. Gold notched another record close on Monday at $23.83 per ounce. I want to read just one quote they put out here. The quote they say, quote, the recent gold rally has been aided by geopolitical heat and is coinciding, and now I can't read that, with record equity index levels, Citi wrote in a note dated April 15th. This all happened in the light of I don't buy it. I mean, we saw a bit of a spike, but the big run up in the gold and silver price weren't really event oriented spikes, in my opinion. They were fundamentally based. Sure, over the last, let's say, week or so, we may have had a geopolitical kicker that kind of came in, a little kicker to kick it a little higher. But to me, it was a different rally that we said, here we go. We project 3,000 ounces of gold over the next 6 to 18 months. Okay, well, Citi, you're becoming Iran's.
Remember to thank all the super chats that came out today. Thank you.
Okay, Susie, you want to say hi to everybody real quickly?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today.
And thank you, everyone, for the super chats. That's our friend Susie. All right, let's go back here. Let's also remember to say thank you to First Mining Gold. If you're interested in a Canadian, I'm going to ring the gong, Canadian Gold Development Company. Check out First Mining Gold at firstmininggold.com. And of course, our good friends at Fortuna Silver, silver and gold miner with 5 operating mines, 3 in Latin America, 2 in West Africa. You can learn more about them at fortunasilver.com. Let's ring the gong, your favorite part of the show, guys, right? We got 300 thumbs up. Wow. Thank you for the thumbs up. If you haven't given this a thumbs up, please give it one right now. Let's ring the gong 3 times. I'm going to do it. Susie yelled at me. And then I got to tell you a story about what happened when I got done with the live stream yesterday. It was not good. Don't forget, basement dwellers, we need to smile when we ring the gong. So I get done with the live stream yesterday and I hear this buzzing noise, right? And I got all kinds of stuff plugged in and I'm like, what is buzzing in the basement, right? And I look up and I see this giant bee hovering above me in the basement. And I thought, oh, great. We got a new basement dweller amongst us. I called him Jerome. Anyway, and I thought, I got to get rid of this thing because the cats come down here, the kids come down here, Susie comes down here, and I didn't want this big bumblebee to bite Susie. I'm not kidding, guys, because this basement's a wreck, as you can probably see. I have rafters, stuff hung in the rafters. I've got issues, right? But anyway, I spent a half hour, like for the first 15 minutes, and I thought, you ever had that happen in life? I'm like, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to get this bee. I had a book, and I'm tall. And I'm like, I'm going to whack him. And he just would not stand still. So I got him drunk. Finally, I thought I need to spray him with something. And I was too lazy to go upstairs and get the bug spray. But I have this little squirt bottle that I have rubbing alcohol in that I use to clean screens on the phone and the cameras and all that. So I got somewhere where I could get him, and I sprayed him with some alcohol. And that really made him mad. He actually bounced off my glasses at one point. But then I got him again with a little more sprayed with a little more alcohol, and he kind of slowed down a little bit. So I figured, he no longer is alive. And then I'm thinking, oh my gosh, maybe there's a bee's nest in the basement. But the good news is I've not seen any more Jerome bumblebees showing up since then. What else do we have today? Let's go. You want to talk about, Orin's talking about this potential for a silver squeeze. Let me ask you, do you think we could see another squeeze? If you do, I want you to type squeeze, SQU. I'm typing it, EECE. I do, especially with the technology, communications, instant purchasing of silver. I think that we could definitely see another silver squeeze. But are we actually seeing? I'm going to give you a little insight behind the scenes at Ron's basement about why I think that we're seeing a growing level of interest in silver and gold. When my views go up on the channel, it usually coincides with a period of increased interest in silver and gold. I'd like to think it's because of my boyish good looks and the quality of the content, but hey, let's be real. I'm going to show you a report that I have that'll give you a little insight into what's going on. This is a screenshot from the YouTube Studio app, which is the app that I get to use to kind of track things on the channel and do all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway, that doesn't matter. This is the last 28 days, and that's views on the channel. As you can see, it kind of got, I'll tell you, January, February, we were getting maybe 10,000-ish views a day. And as you can see here, over the last 3 weeks, there has been a marked increase in views of Ron's Basement videos. And I can tell you from experience that absolutely coincides with from talking to Coin Shop Chris and talking to people, other people in the retail bullion side of things, that like when my views go up, more people are starting to buy precious metals. So we could be in for quite a ride. We're talking about a 10-year bull market. That's what we're rooting for. Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for all the support. Thanks for being a basement dweller, and I'll see you soon. Take care.